Hi, good evening. My name is Jay. I am the host of the show. Last week on Real Men, Real Talk Live. So how do we find a way? So how do we find a ways to that rainbow?
Like the serpent, teachers, brother. Turn the venom into medicine, brothers and sisters. Let go of those old waters of disappointment, burdens, traumas, hardships, obstacles, expectations. Ask yourself the deep questions. Do I deserve putting up with this conditioning or accepting of other people's behavior to validate my own existence?
Say that again.
Really.
I missed that.
I missed. Yeah.
Do I deserve to put up with the conditioning of accepting other people's behavior to validate my own existence?
Still so good.
I think we got ourselves a show tonight. Viewers and listeners, welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back, viewers. Again, my name is Jay. I'm the host of the show. I'd like to introduce my co-host this evening. We have Jay Ritty, a.k.a. Josh Richard, joining us from Southern California. Welcome back, Josh Richard.
Great to be here with you guys.
And we have Mr. Jeff Fasano joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome back, Jeff.
Greetings, everyone. As we sit and wait for Evis Heath, who's going to come in hot tonight.
Brother Evis.
This is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Yep, it sure is. Tonight's episode is 144. The topic is, are you walking the walk with self-talk? And I'm going to invite Josh Richard to kick us off, light us up, get us hot, and share with us what your inspiration was for laying this tonight's show topic out for all of us here on Real Men Real Talk Live.
Yeah. Well, greetings and love to all of you guys out there. So happy to be with our brothers again tonight. This hit me while I was out running around this week, and I had stopped at a gas station, and I didn't have time to eat a full meal. It was a busy day. I was going to run in and just get some nuts, and I was walking in the little, automatic doors, and there was a woman coming in kind of right behind me, and I caught out of the corner of my eye. She was limping. She had her head down, and, I don't know, just that energy of just not taking care of yourself. And we both walked in the door, and the attendant immediately, from behind the register said, the machine's down. We can't process any payments. And my first thought was, oh, crap. Okay. And I was turning around, and I'm like, well, there's other gas stations or a little market in the area. I'll just go somewhere else. And her response out loud, kind of to herself, but out loud where we could all hear it, was, "This is always my luck." As she turned in sort of, like just low energy. I could just feel this woman's energy. And I thought about it, and I was like, I remember the days when I used to say things like that to myself. And I remember the days when I used to repeat over and over that I was stupid, or that was a dumb thing, or, this is always my luck, like she said, or, these things always happen to me, or I'm just this, or I'm just that. That inner critic that I had to live with for decades was rough and brutal and critical and awful and a horrible person to live with. I often equate it as driving across country in a car with no AC with George Carlin sitting shotgun, just squawking at you the whole that. And for those of you who don't know who George Carlin is, look him up. It would suck to ride cross country with that man angry. But that's who was in my head 24/7 from the day I woke up. So this episode is about self-talk, and I'm personally very passionate about it because I know what self-talk did to me negatively. And it seems simple. Words seem to be tiny, minute things throughout our day. But I will tell you that the smallest of things end up being the biggest of things, and how the words we use in our mind, out loud to ourselves and with other people, hugely, massively, I can't state this enough, affect our emotions and how we feel and how our life turns out, or how this existence, we're actually speaking it into existence. So tonight we're going to unpack all of this and how it works, and then tools that we can clean up, police that George Carlin, our negative, nasty self-talk partner that's riding shotgun with us, and create this better life. And it works, I swear. It seems small, but again, we're going to unpack all of this tonight. And I can't wait to hear what you brothers have to say about this too, because that's just my experience. But man, it changed my life a ton. And it seemed like the smallest of things ever.
It's a constant state of beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
I mean, that inner critic of always beating ourselves up. I can't catch a break. I'm this and that. My dumb luck. When is it going to turn for me? You're not good enough. There you go again. That inner critic of constantly beating ourselves up over everything. And we've spoken on this show many times about many things over and over again. And we spoke about that inner critic, that inner voice that is always there. And it's time to change that. Find out first where that inner critic is, who that inner critic is. Is it mom? Is it dad? And what is that loop over and over and over again that goes on over again? I think on one show a couple of months ago, I was on a hike and I mentioned this, and all of a sudden as I was on the hike and moving, that voice, that inner critic was there, talking, chattering away. And then finally, I remember I mentioned this on the show. I stopped in the middle of the hike and I yelled out, "Shut the hell! Who are you?"
Yeah.
It was amazing, the loop that's over and over and over again. And it reminded me of my mother, the way she would talk to my father.
Wow.
And how I would hear that. And it was just this chatter. This is wrong. That's wrong. What are you going to do? That's right. Yeah. And I think it's about the work we put in to eventually hear that and realize it's a conditioned loop that goes on in our minds over and over and again, and it's up to us to change that.
How do we do that? It sounds like it's up to us to change it. But if we've had a lifetime of living in our thoughts that create our reality, coming off of our perspective of what we think is true, how do we break the cycle? How do we cut the cords? How do we break the chain to old patterns?
We have to. So recently, and I mentioned on the show, I took a mindful self-compassion class for an 8-week class.
Oh yeah.
And which changed my life. Part of that class was to create a new inner dialogue.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
A new inner dialogue with ourselves of compassion, of love and acceptance. But But as much as we practiced the old way, like that woman saying, "Oh, my dumb luck," because we're practicing it over and over and over again, we have to become aware and conscious of that. Then we have to practice something new every single day, creating a whole dialogue, creating a script for ourselves, and do it every single day. I am loved. I'm fantastic. Whatever it is that we have to create and change a new dialogue with ourselves. But we also have to know that we're worthy of it.
Mm-hmm. And I know it works, and it's, you know, that not that fake it till you make it either. It's not that, like you said, Jeff, you have to feel it, know it, be it. And this is all part of self-love and self-compassion and forgiveness. I mean, these are all tied in together. And I'm curious, like, for someone who, what did they say to even start on this path? Was there anybody in that group who this was just like so foreign to them, Jeff, that they were like,
you know what? It was on some level, it was probably foreign to everybody in that group. Even, you know, it's foreign. I realized it, and I was like, wow. And then it was just about creating affirmations for yourself, writing things down. In this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, that I'm reading, there's I am lovable, I am wonderful, I am caring. You write all of this down, write them down so you can see it every day. Practice it every single day. Go into the mirror in your bathroom, look at your eyes, right in your eyes. I'm wonderful, I'm fantastic. Start to create this new dialogue in ourselves and repeat it to yourself over and over and over again. And then, because whosever voice is in our head, whatever that critic is, has been repeated over and over and over again. And it was kind of like in the middle of me taking this class that I started doing that, not even realizing. And like I said, I was on this hike one day, and it was through this class and the repetitive new dialogue that I heard loud. I mean, it was so loud in my head. And all of a sudden I was like, who the hell are you? And where did this come from? And it's about shifting it, but knowing that we're worthy of it. We're worthy of shifting it.
And it's a huge awareness too, Jeff, that critic may not be you.
No.
It may be a family member. It might have been passed down to you. So that harsh person that you've just been accepting there on your shoulder, just barking negativity at you 24/7, might not even be you.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I said. With the chatter from me sounded like how my mother used to talk to my father.
That's an insane awareness. Wow. And I'm curious, Jay, is any of this striking home with you? Did you have that critic inside you? I'm going to take a wild guess and say yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people don't.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, I think I would suspect the majority, a very small percentage, like maybe less than 5%, don't have that inner dialogue going 24/7, passing through, the thoughts passing through. And what I've learned in the last 7.5, 8 years or so is that as soon as I'm weaving a new inner dialogue, when I call it weaving, it means I'm creating, I'll call it a story. I catch myself and I ask myself one question: is it true? I don't wait until I, get to the climax of a story. I don't wait till I'm sinking in the ocean or I'm swimming, through dense, dark energy. I do my best to catch myself. And what's interesting is, as I was practicing this new relationship with my mind, with my thoughts, with these stories, I'm catching myself sooner than later. I'm having to get to the last chapter or the last segment of of the script, of the narrative that's been going on. I'll catch myself earlier. And what I'm finding is that most of the time, what I've weaved isn't even true. It's just coming from old programming. It's coming from old belief systems. It's coming from the old way that I talked to myself and treated myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new way to live life. But for me, the key is catching it early enough before I end up in a sinkhole. And then most of the time I'm blown away how I realize that it was just something I created in that moment. And the other thing too is like a huge part of it, as you described in your opening comments, Josh, is that when you witnessed that lady that actually took it personally, and basically that experience of not being able to buy something at the gas station, let's say, she made it about her life.
It was evidence of her whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead, how I like to embrace when I get a not now or no thank you, I go right into, the universe knows what I can't see right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we learn how to, let's say, develop trust or embrace faith and know that we don't have to feel like we're doing this thing called life all by ourselves anymore. And we're willing to just trust that maybe what we can't see, divine source or God or the universe can see for us. So maybe when they're saying, we're not able to serve you, what we don't know is, maybe that gas station was minutes away from having some type of explosion. I mean, I'm taking it to the extreme, right, Josh and Jeff? But we are, or maybe they're about to get a robbery, and there could be a shooting there. I mean, we could make up five alternate realities in this moment, but we don't have to know the ending to that. All we have to be willing to do is surrender that in that moment. We're not supposed to be there, and then we just move on.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds funny to everybody out there about Jay's, gas station exploding or being robbed, but that is equally as ridiculous as us saying this is about us. The gas station is not serving me because this always happens to me.
Yeah.
I'm flawed. I'm not worthy. The world is out to get me. The world is not out to get you. And you bring up a great reframing point. And for those of you who don't know reframing is catching our thoughts in the moment and choosing new, more supportive thoughts. And I'm huge on this, as what my book is about. It's all about reframing. But yes, it's taking that the world, things are happening to me. That was a big thing that I carried at my deepest, darkest time with my most depression and, anxiety running wild. And that critic was just totally unchecked. I believe the world was happening to me, not for me. And Jay, you brought up a great point, is that reframe. It's happening for us. We don't know why, and just roll with it. Just, trust that it was better that way, not to be at that gas station and go to another. Maybe you bump into a neighbor at the other one and strike up a story, and then a business opportunity has come up. We never know. Or it'd make you 5 minutes early to something where you'd meet somebody and some connection would happen. Right. It's just that the day cascades. We don't know. But when you take it all as happening to you, you end up with this negative down existence.
Yeah.
It's all happening for us.
I want to take it to the next level here. What if you're you think that you want to be employed by a company, so you go on an interview, and you go in there with these, excited, but at the same time you have this nervousness about you. You want to nail the interview because you think this is where you want to be employed, and then you find out that you didn't make the final cut.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have either one of you had that experience, or have you, where in that moment, again, we take it personally.
Sure.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been on an interview for a job. But
cheers to that, Jeff.
Really.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, it's like if somebody is looking for a photo shoot and I make a bid for the photo shoot and I don't get it, it's happened many times. You know, you just, well, I didn't get that shoot. You don't, you know. I look at it, then if I was supposed to be doing the shoot, then I would be doing the shoot. It's living from the soul space. I feel my feelings. Oh, wow, I wish I would have gotten it. I'm bummed. I'm, disappointed. But you know what? Perhaps I could find the reason why. But then again, if in the soul plan, in my soul plan, from living from a soul perspective, if I was supposed to be doing the shoot, I would have. There's plenty of them that I got. See, what we can tend to do is go, oh man, I didn't get that shoot. Well, how many shoots did you get? You know, how many gigs have I gotten? I mean, I've even seen artists who I've photographed a few times and all of a sudden see new pictures and they photographed with another photographer. And I'm like, oh, wow, I've worked with them like 3 or 4 times. Why didn't they choose me again? You know, that's not the way it works. I could take it personally, but one of the things I'm learning by reading this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, is that many of us tend to not look at the universe as an abundant universe. This might be veering off track a little bit, but we look at it as very limiting. One of the things that I have to keep in mind is that, especially in this day and age, there's so many people, we live in a visual world. So where I am, there's plenty of people out there who need photographs. There's plenty of work out there for all the for photographers. So if we don't get that gig or whatever, if we keep in the mindset of that we live in an abundant world and I'm abundant, what are my talents and gifts? What do I bring to the table? We live in an abundant world out there.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. When you've had that moment of awareness that you didn't get the gig, you didn't land it, and you feel disappointed, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes right here, right now, and tap into emotionally. How old were you feeling in that moment? The last time that you got to know thank you. How old did you feel emotionally?
63.
Yes.
I really, Jay, I don't, I feel disappointed because I would have loved to do it, but it's not about me.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That's a healthy answer right there. But I'll tell myself, there's still those moments where that little boy within, he still sneaks in and he still takes it personally. So it doesn't mean that it won't happen again in the future, but and that is just an opportunity then. Where I was going with you on that was I was hoping you were going to say you were about 6 or 16. And where I was going to guide you to.
I used to be.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
Feeling.
Yeah.
When feeling well.
At the very beginning of this, I'm going to tell you right now, years ago, I don't know if everybody out there knows who James Galway is. James Galway at one time was arguably the greatest flute player in the world. And I did a big photo shoot with him in Chicago before I quit my job. And then I quit my job. And then a bunch of years later, he was doing a photo shoot and I found out about it and I didn't get the gig. Somebody else did. So I was like, what's going on here? And I was 40 years old and it kicked right in, I should be doing this, whatever. So I casually sent an email to James Galway just saying, hey, Jimmy, I hear you doing a shoot. what's going on. I would love to do it. And he goes, I don't know. Let me check it out. I know that I'm doing a shoot. And then he went to the record company, said, how come Jeff's not doing it? And they changed it for me. But my little 15-year-old not good enough came in all those years ago. Like, what the heck? And then, you know, now if that would happen, I might send an email, or I might not even care.
So that's how we can measure growth then, right? That's how we measure growth in our own development as adults, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, we all, you know, it's like, there are things that I've done that people never do. And they might get a gig with an artist who I've shot before. But, you know, then again, I look at all the things like I have done.
Yeah.
And all the gigs that I've gotten that people would love to have. And some of the gigs I have now that people would love to have. So it's really an abundance thing, which that did not come naturally to me. I was that woman leaving the gas station for a long time.
And here's the thing about these repeated attacks. You know, the animal kingdom is lucky. They don't have that self-aware piece. So when you know, you jump out and scare your cat in the living room and they jump 4 feet off the floor, they go back to relaxed and licking themselves like a few seconds later when the danger is gone. But us, excuse me, humans, we ruminate on events. So a bad event, or telling yourself you're, you know, God, I did that thing again, or God, I'm so stupid, or whatever. These repeated attacks over time, over and over and over and over, do bring you down. And we don't go back to that baseline of, oh, okay, the danger's gone, everything's fine. We keep attacking ourselves over and over and over, and that over decades and years. And those thousands of times we do beat ourselves up, treat ourselves poorly. We wouldn't treat friends this way. Why do we treat ourselves like this? So those repeated attacks over and over and over, that's why these words are so important. It's not necessarily that it was a big attack in the moment. It's that there's thousands of them throughout your life. And it's that, and that becomes that mantra. We talk about healthy mantras, right? Being good. Well, here we've been doing all these negative mantras for our entire lives and maybe not even knowing we were doing it.
Yeah. You know, something just popped into my head. One of the things that we can do is when we hear that voice, and I'm sure everybody out there watching or listening to us right now, there's some sort of voice, there's some sort of inner loop that goes on in your head when things happen or something's going on, or maybe something wonderful is happening. And the inner loop comes in, like my father's inner loop says, don't worry, the other shoe's gonna, and that other shoe's gonna, and that inner loop. One of the tools that we can use if we come aware is stop and just go into silence, get a piece of paper, sit down and just ask, whose voice is this? What voices are these? Close your eyes. Who's this? What do you want to tell me? Who are you? And see what happens. Then you'll begin to identify that voice. Like I said, when I was walking that, and I've done this, you know, that inner critic, and something might not come up, but then you can start having a dialogue with that voice. And choose to say, who are you? What are you saying? And as Jay said earlier, is this really true about me? So this is a way to begin to identify it and start shifting it. Like I said earlier, when I was on that hike, all of a sudden I was hearing the voice and I stopped. And like I said, I did that. I go, oh my God. Shut up, Mom. It was my mother's voice, not talking to me, just my mother's chatter, putting my father down all the time.
So what you're saying, Jeff, is many times we actually turn into one of our parents. We start to pick up we don't start, but we pick up their words, their language, their behaviors, and how they felt or feel about themselves. And we wake up one day as the adult, and there we are, and there they are.
Yep.
So having that awareness, want to invite either one of you in a moment to share what are some of the tips, tricks, and tools that we can embrace for ourselves and for our viewers out there to break the patterns. How do we? Because if this is decades of learned behavior, it's not something that we picked up from a TV show. It's something that we picked up most likely in our childhood, and it could have even been, let's say, in the business that we come from. It could have been a supervisor or boss, at how he talks to his employees or how she talks to her employees. We start to pick up the language. It's almost like have you ever traveled to another state? Let's say you travel to another state and the accent is very different. If you spend a couple of weeks there, before you realize it, you may start to actually pick up some of the accent. I could tell you, when I go back to the East Coast and I'm back in New York, my New York accent comes back like really strong. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Because I could hear at times, like, that word I just said, that's not even a New York accent. That's Massachusetts. That's coming from Mary. It's coming from my partner. So the more time we spend around people, we tend to pick up their words. We tend to pick up their accent. We even tend to pick up their behavior. So be careful when you choose friends in your life, and when you choose employers. Be aware that there's a good chance that you're going to start to pick up some of their nuances, and then you get to ask yourself the question: is this good for me? One of the 5 vitals I refer to is this good for me? And then how important is it when it comes to the self-talk? It's really important because it absolutely defines how we feel about ourselves and what unfolds in our life.
And another huge point there, Jay, they always say we are most like the 5 people closest to us.
There you go.
So what does that circle look like? And as we're learning to edit ourselves and push out some of this negativity within our own minds, often we have to look around ourselves too, which I know is tough.
Here's the thing too, going back to that voice that was like at volume 12 when I was hiking. I stopped and I asked my cousin, how is this helping me? How is this voice helping me? You're not helping me here. You're not, this is, so that's that's another, I asked the question I asked. How is this voice actually helping me? It's just criticizing and criticizing and criticizing over and over and over again. It's not helping anybody. That voice is not offering any solutions. It's just one of those voices that's constantly criticizing. And if you turned around and said, asked, how can you help me here? Well, there'd be nobody helping you. It wouldn't be anybody helping us. Help? Oh, no. I'm just here to tell you what you're doing wrong all the time. I don't have any answers for you.
It's crazy. There's one more you just reminded me too. I had a great coach at one point. She said every morning, and I put this into my morning practice, we talk about gratitude. And when I was really negative, I started doing a gratitude list of 10 things every morning that I was grateful for. But I added this one piece from her. And she said, ask yourself every day, what's a lie about yourself you're believing today? Yeah. And what I would And what I would do is I do my 10 things I was grateful for. And this is how we rewire our brain for positivity. And because we get used to these negative patterns, like you said, this happens, we do this thousands of times for decades. It's a pattern. We have to, how do we break that? So gratitude list is a huge thing to start wiring your brain in positive ways instead of that critic that's there. And then ask yourself, what's a lie I'm believing today? And so like an example of mine would be like, if I wake up in the morning and I'm slogging through the kitchen and I'm like, I'm exhausted, man, I didn't get much sleep. I'm too tired to make it through the day. And I'd bust myself in that lie. I'm like, really? You're going to like drop dead at 5:48 p.m. tonight? Like, that's a lie. You can make it through the day, but stop telling yourself that. So what I would do, she had me do the exercise where you identify the lie you're believing about yourself and then flip it into a positive I am statement. And I am statements are supremely important when we in self-talk, because anything that follows the words I am, you're identifying with. I am XYZ. I am stupid. I am unlucky. I am whatever. That's the old pattern. So we'll flip this new thought. So in the example of I'm too tired to make it through the day, that lie in the morning that I bust myself on, I'll be like, I have more energy than I think I do. And I always rally and I get things done. And it's a positive I am. And so that was a practice I did for probably 2 years straight. I've got stacks of these little journals that I filled out every page every day with gratitude and a positive I am statement about yourself, busting you in a lie. And they work awesome.
I love that, Josh, because really what you're doing is you're dropping one word after the I am.
Yeah.
Usually in our thoughts where I am not.
Mm-hmm.
So now we drop the not, and then you talk about what you are. And even if you're not feeling it yet, if you set the intention and you just kind of start to get into the habit or practice of creating positive, loving, nurturing, nourishing I ams, and you stay consistent with it and you're committed to the process, I would suspect that within less than 28 days to a month, you'll see a shift or a pivot in how you're feeling about yourself. What I want to also
Jay,
do,
can I? So, all right. So I'm going to go back to a couple of shows ago when our fearless leader, Jay Rothman, brought up prayer. Okay. When we, and I do this every morning, if we sit down and write down a whole bunch of I ams, I am now prosperous and abundant. I am now shooting 4 photo shoots per month or more. I am now, and write all, that's prayer, folks. Catherine Ponder's book about prayer. This is what prayer is.
there you go.
It's about stating, I am now whatever follows. And always be careful, folks, what follows your I ams. Because what this prayer is stating to the universe where you are right now, because there is no time. There's no past, present, or future. This is it. Time is, we are here. So if we state, I am now I do this every single morning before I get out of bed. I've got a folder on my bed that my cat actually sleeps on. and I have papers in that folder with a bunch, so many of these I ams. And I've even set up a little group for my book that's coming out. My book is now. I am now. So you're setting these intentions, but that's what prayer is, because our prayer is directing the universe to what we say we want in a very, very positive way. And this, then what we're doing and what prayer is we're not asking for help. Oh, please help me. That's not prayer. Prayer is saying, I am, this is now happening. and then you leave it up to the universe or God or whatever you want to call it.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
I love that, Jeff Fasano. I want to bring in a special guest this evening, joining us from Australia. He's a man
Hey,
down under. Welcome back.
give us love, Heath.
brothers. I'm home. I finally made it.
Nice, man. You dropped in right on time.
Always on divine time. Thanks for having me, my brothers. How's
So
it
how's it-
going tonight?
All right,
As you
Ev,
say-
Ev, the rest of the show is you. Go ahead.
Yeah, man.
Before Evis really gets hot in the studio here, I do want to share something that really came forward for me early on. As soon as I got released from the hospital after some massive procedures back in 2015, the challenges that had surmounted were very, very big, very large,
Mhm.
and the likelihood that I was going to be able to overcome the medical conditions based on what Western medicine, the professionals had shared with me, wasn't that good. But
Mhm.
what I did was I actually created my own IAMs. I created mantras.
Nice.
And the mantras that I created was all around, I am healed. I am healed. And I would just keep saying it literally as I'm riding my beach cruiser along the shoreline for miles at a time every morning. And I would add more to it. I am healed. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. I'm healed. I'm healed. Mind, body, soul. And I just got into the rhythm of that. And as well as creating other visual exercises in my mind where I would see my body totally healed. Now you're talking about a guy that was smoking a pack a day of cigarettes, was legally obese, was a fast food junkie. I was not a well man, but I am today. I am today because I believed it was possible. And I also believed that in that moment, as long as I started to speak those words that I am healed, not that I'm going to heal, that's the future.
Exactly.
The body
Exactly.
cannot decipher that, whether it's the future, the past, but it can decipher that it's in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the cellular level, the body started to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And I am here to say right here, right now, today, I am 100% healed. 100% healed. So I want to transition us right now.
And real quick, Jay, you have physical proof. You have x-rays and scans and all of that prove that you healed yourself through your words, through your intentions, through your, this is the power of this stuff, folks. These are not just words. If you are casually throwing out negativity throughout your life over and over and over again, it will bring you down.
Be careful.
Be careful what you think and be careful what you speak.
Be careful of what follows your I ams.
Exactly.
Totally.
And Ev, I want to ask you, Ev, to jump in here, and where I'd like to invite you to take us on this little journey right now, this adventure. What role do you think nutrition can play in the health of our thoughts and the health of our mind? We haven't gone there yet tonight. I was patiently waiting for you to show up to share some insights. Does it affect how we think about ourselves, or what we think, or how we speak, or just the thoughts?
Man, it's a beautiful question, brother. And just to even piggybacking on the back of what you've just said there in regards to those I am affirmations. I mean, I'm not too sure if you brothers have dropped in already about who are you actually talking to when we're commanding with the I am affirmation or not. But that little voice or that little person, let's give it a personification here, that sits in the background listening to everything you're saying, brothers and sisters, is the subconscious mind. It has no distinct whether something's wrong, whether something is right. It has no discrimination. It just takes in anything, everything that you're feeding within it, and past programs. So when we think about some of these I am affirmations and what are we commanding, we've got to really start to become aware that when we're talking about self-talk, my brothers and sisters, we're talking about our thoughts, we're talking about our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So ask yourself even these first questions. Where has those thoughts come from in my past? Where have some of these beliefs come down from in the past? Have they been passed down again? Have they been programmed from what I was around, what I experienced when I was younger? All this stuff that is dumped when we think of negative self-talk is what really is programming the beliefs that we have within. The subconscious mind, when you are able to reprogram it from what you're believing, from what you're saying to yourself, and what you actually take on as an assumption, can either be really your friend or your foe. And it really is as simple as that. Now, when you're talking about what role does nutrition, actually from a workshop I just came from, it's maybe a little bit late, one of those things is obviously I speak a lot about what role nutrition plays just within any healthy lifestyle. Now, why should self-talk be such an important part of our healthy lifestyle? Well, it has a major factor within the health and well-being, and as I'm sure we've already discussed tonight, your mental health. So when we talk about nutrition, what role would that play in, the self-talk and within our mental health and emotional well-being? I would say it's up there as number 1 or 2. What we consume, whether it's information coming in from people, places, and things, what do you think food is, brothers and sisters? It's information. It's light. It's a frequency. So you could only imagine if you're putting in junk to your body, information that's going in, the way that you communicate it to yourself has got to be really important from what you're consuming within your food. So yeah, my brother, it is really, really important that we really think about what we're actually consuming within nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many great points, Ev.
So what does it say that with my chocolate covered almonds that I bought today?
I'm with you on that one. We gotta. It's all about healthy balance, right?
Is that a question, brother? Look, I think we're honestly at a stage in I call it the game of life, that we can't even neglect anything like our food anymore. And we could go as far as saying it's all about a balance. The problem is when it becomes a habit, the habit becomes an addiction. And these foods that are out there that, we try and say maybe the 20% of an 80-20 balanced meal plan, it's not food, brothers and sisters. It's as simple as that. These big brands, these big companies know how you tick and they know how you talk. So these foods are programming you at a cellular level to go and fulfill the chemical fix of particular neurons that are running in your brain. Have you ever wondered why you just end up at a fast food place, or you just go for that particular thing? Have you ever wondered why? It's because you've been programmed from the cellular level. So we've got to take back that personal power, brothers and sisters. I could keep going, Jay the Rockman.
Yeah, I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, they know us better than we do. Marketers, advertisers know us better than we do.
I don't remember the last time I've ever been to a fast food restaurant.
There you go, Jeff.
We talk about food, but I want to ask you, from your perspective on nutrition, what role does water play in nourishment for the brain and either healthy thoughts or harmful thoughts?
It's been proven. Another thing in science, if we look at it at a surface level, our body is 80%, some say 70%, I'll say 80% water. The brain is up there around 60, 70% water. So you've got to think, if we're not hydrated, water is really the conductor of the electricity and magnetism that's going through our body.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the rainbow serpent, dreaming well-being last week. It talks about the waters within our body, those emotions. That water is programmable. And those studies are actually being, studied through scientists, Japanese scientists, which is pretty famous story now. In fact, that actually saw affirmations that were actually programmed within water were actually creating beautiful glaciers, depending on whether it was a positive intention or if you put negative intention. They're not even into water, brothers and sisters, because you are water, remember? Then these waters were literally forming toxic molecules underneath a telescope. So you ask, what role does water play? Again, this is who we are. We're water beings, brothers and sisters. We come from the womb of water. We go back into the ground. Our water leaves us and it goes back to the earth.
It all plays in together so strongly, and we don't realize it. When I was asleep at the wheel, Jay, I was like you. Fast food was an acceptable stop in the middle of a busy day. And it's like, we don't think about all these little things, but all these little things add up to be the thing. I mean, I can guarantee out there, if you're depressed, look at your self-talk.
And if you're depressed, start to pay attention to what you're consuming as far as nutrition, as far as liquids. So many people that I've worked with, when I ask them, how much water do you drink on an average daily basis? Their answer is the same answer that I was living in for 54 years of my life. They'd say, probably not enough. And I'll say, ballpark. And they say, I don't know, maybe 5 ounces of water. Well, then what have you been drinking? And they're like, well, I have to start my day with a caffeine. And then I switch to a Coke or a Diet Coke or a Pepsi or a Diet Pepsi. And I said, so when are you drinking your water? And their answer was my answer. Oh, I drink the water to take my pharmaceuticals. This is not a judgment. This is my story. This is how I showed up for me. And then it was no wonder that my thoughts weren't clear. It was no wonder that my self-talk was self-deprecating. So nutrition could be one of the first gateways or steps to healing your self-talk. Weed out the sodas, weed out the toxic foods that are making you sicker emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm here to tell you, people, that this is serious. This is real. This is how I cleaned up. I pay attention to how much water I consume every day. And I could tell if I'm behind or when I'm behind, and then I'll make up. I'll just make it up. I'll just down a quick 20 ounces of filtered water. And then I just get right back on track. Or if I need to down 40, I will. So in any event, I want to move us right along here as we have navigated into the negative self-talk. I want to ask what role can, we talk about distractions in life, and it's interesting that the ego lives in the mind. That's where it resides, and the mind is where we go sideways in the talk. And yet the egoic mind wants to distract us from living in the pain, so it comes up with all these creative solutions to numb us out, distract us from feeling the pain that we've created a lot of the time from our thoughts. So how can we, especially you, Josh, having written a book, Ship for Brains, how can we learn how to manage the brain so that it doesn't control our life? And what part of our body temple can we take or give permission to kind of guide us to healthier thoughts and healthier behaviors for
Mhm.
a healthier quality life for ourselves.
Well, the brain is a computer. It's just running on a program of look for danger, seek pleasure. That's why the junk food tastes so great. And that's why, we run or hide, or our ego steps in when we feel like the little person inside of us is threatened. It's that fear and that survival. And that's why we do things that we don't want to do, because we're trying to get love or affection or attention or approval. And so when you think of the brain in this as this computer, it's just running. It's just a computer that's running. And sometimes there's some bad programs in there and some negativity. And the great part is, though, that when we have gotten stuck in a negative rut and negative thought patterns and negative thinking and negative self-talk, it's not a lost cause, because these neurons can rewire, and they rewire fairly quickly. And there's another, this will be my last tip, trick, and tool, because I want to hear from some of the other guys. A tip to beat this and beat the brain at its own game. The brain's trying to keep us asleep so it could just run patterns automatically, because it takes less energy. So we can consciously hold these new thoughts, these new affirmations, like we were talking about, a gratitude list, these positive things. We start to rewire our brain. And what happens is our brain actually gets really annoyed with us that we're thinking something consciously, and we're burning more energy with the conscious part of our brain, rather than the asleep part of ourselves way back that just runs on autopilot, that negative program that's been running. Well, when we consciously hold something, and Jay, you called it out earlier in the episode, it's around 23 to 30 days, all the studies say, but the brain will actually then automate whatever you've been holding consciously, because it's like, all right, dude, if you're going to keep thinking this thing over and over, I'm going to automate it so we can actually use our processing power for better things. So when I learned that, when I was studying for my book, I was like, well, wait, what? I can install stuff? And that's when I was off to the races. And I for 3 months did intentional work where I was holding different sort of affirmations in my mind, the same thought all day, every day for 30 days, as often as I could think about it. One was, I love myself. Another one was anger to compassion. Every time I was angry, I reframed to compassion. But these intentional times, I was literally thinking the same thought, thinking the same thought, thinking the same thought. And sure enough, a month later, or 20 some days later, my brain installed it. So it's a hack. We can hack our patterns. And what it takes is just a little awareness and some repetition. It's not hard. It's not difficult to do, but if you catch that little negative voice over and over and reframe into a positive new thought again and again and again, your brain will install it for you. So there's my hack.
I love that.
100%, brother.
But I didn't leave much time for all y'all, so sorry. Ed.
Well, I gave mine earlier, and I gave my tip and trick earlier in the show. I think I'm going to pass it on to Evis.
I mean, it's everything I think you need to say about the brain, brother. But yeah, I mean, most important, I mean, what you're talking about there too, with words of affirmation too, brothers and sisters. When we're talking about this self-talk, what I said earlier about, self-talk really being those thoughts, being those beliefs that we carry around. We're talking about that left side of the brain, taking in those particular words. But what I talk about a lot, as you know, with what the work that I do, is that right side of the brain, which really is a lot got to do with that 95% of the program running the subconscious mind, which is visual affirmation. So few tools that I could really share, particularly in regards to this negative self-talk, is really being able to sit with mindfulness techniques. How can we bring ourselves back to the present moment using the power of the mind, the instrument of the brain? How can we also be able to reframe certain things that are running in the background of negative self-talk to create more positive self-talk? That's what they call CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, where basically whatever negative program you're running, you're reframing that with a positive program. Now, the last thing that I really want to share is, which is really basically tapped in anyway, is the self-awareness. It's got to be number one. We talk a lot about the self-awareness. When we're rattling some of this negative self-talk in the back of our mind, many of us, we become actually unaware that these programs are running. It actually becomes a normal way of life. Totally. And that's the scariest program to be running. So practicing that self-awareness with that mindfulness technique and some of that CBT therapy, look, if you can't find that within your own practices, brothers and sisters, you've got to reach out and find that support. Because what we're talking about here with self-talk, particularly negative self-talk, we've got to remember a lot of this self-talk is actually shaping the way that we look at ourselves, our perception.
Totally.
So if our self-image is damaged, a lot of it can be based on that negative self-talk programming. And until we're able to speak, whether it's verbally or with non-communication, visually, then those programs could be running rampant, like that ego mind that Jay was talking about.
Yeah, I love that. I want to also just share some final thoughts here, and that the power of intentions is very significant. Learning how to set new intentions for your life instead of just living in the dense, dark heaviness of thoughts that are no longer serving you, that may not have been serving you or your ancestors going back a couple of 100 years. Setting positive new intentions for yourself and then honoring them day after day and just kind of like repeating them. The same way I learned how to embrace the power of the mind to heal the body and conditions that I had picked up along my journey, this thing called life, is when we set positive intentions for ourselves. If you believe it's possible, you can manifest exactly what you put out there. You just have to believe it's possible. You have to be willing to take that risk. And it's really not too much of a risk other than creating new daily practices or habits or rituals. I call them non-negotiables. And as we become consistent in setting these intentions for the day, you don't have to project out 20 years from now where you think you want your life to be. Bring yourself back into the moment. Bring yourself back into the now. And set the intentions just for today. And let that be more than enough. And with that, what I'd like to do is, before we close out tonight, I want to bring back, because this kind of plays into, we talked last week, part of our show episode, we talked about betrayal. Well, we didn't all talk about betrayal, but this man sure did, and I'm going to bring him back for just one last moment here.
Wow, what I had to learn recent. I don't think I've voiced this out loud. Was recently I've learned. Okay, the protecting of me, right? That's great when it's outside people, places, and things that are affecting us. But what about when it's an inside job? What was, I think, hardest for me to grapple with, or took me the longest to come to awareness, was, Jeff, when I was abandoning myself. Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that, Riddy?
Man, I feel really bad for the younger me all those years. I was not kind to him. I sold that guy down the river so many times just to be loved. I ignored him. Just like with the self-talk, I talked so shitty to that inner me. Man, thank God for forgiveness, because man, I'd be apologizing for the rest of my life if I was still holding on to guilt about that. But change the relationship with yourself. And it starts by how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to those around us. That also includes those we surround ourselves with. And it also includes all those times that we abandon ourselves for love, for attention, for affection, for approval. And we don't stand in our power and state our needs and state our boundaries. And these are all connected, folks. And when you start to master every little one, it all becomes this giant swell. And like me, I was just saying the other day, I'm on the 3.0 version of me. My awakening was 2.0. And I am happily in a nice big new leap into the 3.0. And it's so peaceful up here. It's so, I'll share, I know we're going to go over time, but how powerful this is and why I believe in this, in reframing and words so much, was because I've shared it in the past, not for a while, but I almost committed suicide specifically to silence that critic, because he was there the second I opened my eyes in the morning, and he was there until I drank myself to sleep at night. And I couldn't drink my way out of him after a while. It worked in the beginning, but I couldn't consume enough to silence that guy. And I almost jumped to silence him. So that's how critical this and how negative it can get. I literally would do anything for peace inside my mind. And I have that today because of this work and because of everything we talked about tonight, everything the boys shared. I mean, there's beautiful nuggets. It seems simple, but just practice, try. Again, this isn't a pass fail, everything that we say on every show either. It's an experiment. Try it on. See how it fits. See how it feels. You might just feel better, and your life, like Ev said, is just a reflection of what's going on in here. So your world outside will change as you change inside too.
Beautiful.
Magic, brother.
Well, Josh,
I love doing this with you guys. Like, this isn't four dudes talking in a room. This is, I know that every single one of you have lived it as deeply as I have, and that your lives have been affected as negatively as mine was. And that's why I'm honored to share this time with you guys. And that's why we donate all of our time to do this, because it's not because we like seeing our own faces on YouTube. It's because we know this shit works. And because we're so much happier now. So thank you guys. I love sharing space with you.
well, we got there. Took an hour and 7 minutes to get us there, Riddy.
One of us always cries.
Viewers, I want to take a moment here to thank you for joining us this evening. If you're new to the channel, you could check out all of our prior 143 episodes leading up to tonight on our playlist in YouTube. We love you. Please join us. If you heard something that resonated with you, please share with people you care about. Send them the link. Let them check in on a replay. They can find us and They have hours and hours and hours of wisdom hits, truth, vulnerability on real men, real talk, live.